Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey folks, welcome to the program. I'm Scotty Roberts. I am your host, and I've got a little feedback going on here. Exactly where that's coming from. There we go. It's coming from the Instagram channel. Everybody over on Instagram, welcome. By the way, all of you over on my YouTube channel, welcome to you too. This is Scotty Roberts. This is the Intrepid radio program. That's where I left off. I'm going to hit some of these lights only because I'm looking in the monitor, and for those of you watching rather than just listening, it's awfully darn bright in here. So hang on. I'm going to move over to the other lights. I don't have a main control panel that affects these, but there we go. All right. And I'm back. You hardly knew I was gone, did you? So this is the Intrepid radio program. Welcome to it. I'm glad to have you. If you want to join the live chat room, you can come on over to my YouTube channel where this plays as a podcast. And the best place to get the chat room is to go over to the YouTube channel. Because if you're sitting in Instagram or on Facebook or over on Patreon, a couple of different places on Facebook, you will not get the best chat room because they won't see anything you type and you won't see anything they type from the main chat room. So come on over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. Just scroll down a hair and you'll see the live show playing. I put the link over in the Instagram channel if you want to come over. And I got to use my cheaters here. Let me take the title off. And for shits and giggles, let's just put on our proscenium arch here, which is right about here. Boom. There it is. All right. And I see some of you over there already gathering in the chat room. Morgan Snow, good to see you. And she said live viewer. Oh, that's something else. Good evening, Roger Rabbit, Randall Flag. Good to see you as well. Morgan Snow, good to have you here. I think I said that first. So everybody, welcome to the program. I appreciate you coming on in. Last week, we didn't do any broadcasts at all until Sunday. But if you were here on Sunday, Professor Bauer did exactly what he does most days. He came in at the very end of the broadcast. And you all know the joke with that is that Professor Bauer tends to be verbose. It's a good verbose, but it's verbose. And he'll come in at the end, and JP, Jason, always is laying odds that he'll come in right at the end or a minute before and prolong the show for 25 minutes. So, but he did come in at the end. We did a couple of tarot readings on Sunday, and he asked me a direct question. Now, before we get into tonight's topic, I just wanted to recap this for those of you who weren't there on Sunday. And Pearl Jones, did I say hi or did I just think I said hi? Because I'm looking at your name and I'm talking and thinking about 10 things at once. Hi, if I did not. Welcome to the chat room. And so he said, I want to ask you a question about the election. He wasn't so much asking about the outcome of the election, like who's going to win. He was asking, what is, I think, I'm trying to think of the exact way he phrased that question. It was, what's going to be the reaction to however the outcome of the election comes down? What's going to be the nation's reaction? And I drew these three cards and I left them sitting out because I wanted to recap and show these to you. Now, this was a random shuffle. I took this deck of cards right here, which I still left just sitting out on my desk. This deck, it's the Touchstone Tarot, which I use for doing my daily readings over on my TikTok channel. And so I did a random shuffle of this deck and said, let's just draw three right off the top and see what we get. And that was his request. And here's what we got. And I'll recap these for you very quickly, just to show you. As a result of the election, what's going to be the outcome? How is the nation going to see this? How are we going to react? The first card was the Tower card. Now, the Tower card, if you're familiar with the Tarot at all, means cataclysmic change. It's going to be something that everything that has led us up to this point is done. Meaning in the Tower, the significance of the Tower is everything that you can build can be crumbled to the ground in a moment's notice, and you have no control over it. So the idea with the Tower is that something is going to happen as a result of the election that is a cataclysmic change. And it leaves people raising their heads out of the rubble going, well, where do we go now? This is so different than what we've had. And the idea, too, is that this is an open door to a whole new chapter, all new things going to happen that's for your good. And so the first card we drew was a card that says cataclysmic change. The next card we drew to modify that was the Eight of Wands. Now, wands are those things of our emotions, our passions that get us juiced up about life, what to do next, where to go, how we're going to accomplish it. Wands is also the suit of creativity. It's that zealous, fiery sign of life, of exuberance, of excitement. And so this card on top of that, the Eight of Wands, is a card that's all the wands are pointing upward. Oh, it's going this way. And the upward, it means upward mobility. It means we're getting, our goal is going to be fulfilled and we're getting to better places. We are moving on to a better place for the country. So that's a simplistic, quick response to that one. And then the third card, which culminated the other two, or topped off the other two, is the World card. The World card stands for accomplishment. You've made it. The world is your oyster. You are going to thrive. And that so many people have watched how you did what you have done, that you are becoming the teacher. This is teaching a lesson, this whole thing, of something that is better for us, better for the country, and people are going to look and be inspired by that. So these three cards came right off the top of the deck when Professor Bauer asked, so what's going to happen as a result of this election? The Tower, which is here. Crumbling, everything that's been up to this point is crumbled. And it's all new, it leaves it open for new. Upward mobility, moving onward. And the world is your oyster. You're accomplishing, you're moving into great things and great accomplishments. So that's the three cards. Now, could you take this from either side or either person you vote for and try to get that answer, work through that? Yes. I think, however, when you start looking at it, and the context of the question was from people who have asked or who are voting Trump, who are seeing the current administration as being problematic and it needs changing. And so that's where I think these three cards come in. So may they be right, because I have a bias. We'll see what happens tomorrow. We should know something by tomorrow. I saw Brett Baer on a Fox News clip, and he was on their morning show. He's the main anchor at Fox News. Very professional, suit and tie kind of guy, you know. And he was asked, well, what's your take? What's going to happen on Tuesday? And he says, well, here's the way I see it. He says, it's either going to be an all-out landslide for Harris, or it's going to be a toss-up, and there's not going to be any way to know for several days, maybe even weeks, or Trump's going to have a landslide. And then he started laughing. He says, that's about as concise as I can get with that. And so I've covered all my bases, he said. And that's kind of where we're at. I will tell you this, my personal take. This is me personally. Don't take offense if you disagree with me. Is that I do not understand how anybody could vote for Harris. Just based on everything we know. Donald Trump, people say, well, I feel the same way about Donald Trump. And I say, I'm not looking at what, I don't have a hatred for Donald Trump. Nor am I a cultist, as people like to say. You know, it's funny. You answer one question in social media where somebody says, well, what about this? And you go, well, it's because of this. Oh, typical cultist answer. And I'm like, you don't have to be in a cult to have common sense. As a matter of fact, that would seem to fly in the face of being in a cult. Not a cult of personality. But I see Trump as the person that will take this country and turn it around. I don't care whether you like him or not. It sometimes takes somebody like a Trump to do that. So that's my take. That's how I saw those cards play out. So it's very interesting. And so I wanted to share that with you before we went into the topic for tonight's show. Just kind of a recap of what we did yesterday on the Sunday morning show. ND says, I'm sorry, MB, my glasses. Me too. She said, yep, me too, NB. Me too. I'm going to put my cheaters on. And it's kind of funny because some days they work well, some days they don't. I could wear my bifocals to read my notes, but then you gotta look at my nostrils as I do that. And I hate that. So I'll put these on, they help a little bit. As soon as I'm all healed up in my eyes, I'm going to get a new pair of glasses. I'm going to get a new prescription. So, hi, Gina. Yes, I was just calling you by the screen name. So it's Gina, and so welcome to the show, Gina. I'm glad you're here. And also, Kalina is here. She stepped in, and along with everybody else. And there's a lot more of you out there. If you would like to come to the chat room, share your thoughts, we might open up to some calls pretty early on here and get your take on some of the things that we're going to be talking about. The show tonight is about a weird story. This should maybe be a Friday night story, but I just heard about this the first time either today or yesterday. My days melt together sometimes with all the stuff that's going on. But there was this story that, and I only heard commentators talking about it. And I heard people making fun of it. I heard people criticizing it. I heard people just mentioning it as a news story. That Tucker Carlson, are you familiar with Tucker Carlson? Former Fox News host. Fox News being the organization, not Fox News. He was commentary and very successful there. He got canned for unjustifiable reasons. And I think Fox is licking its wounds from that still. But he started his own thing. He's doing very well. He's working with President Trump and the Trump campaign. And you may have seen a lot about him. And hey, Steph, she's into weird, she says. So the story is this. I'm going to throw up the header again for tonight's show, only because it's the only real picture I have of this. But there's the header. There's Tucker Carlson. He tells his story of being demonically attacked. Now, what do you think of that when you first hear that? When you hear that somebody who is a very high profile out there talks about being attacked by a demon in his sleep, what does that make you think? I know I have seen some people out there that have criticized this mostly because they dislike Carlson, they don't like his politics, anything right or anything formerly associated with Fox is worthy of derision. So Tucker Carlson's an idiot to them for telling this story. However, you've got guys like, do you remember Michael Shermer? I've mentioned this a few times on different radio topics that we've done. Michael Shermer, the head of the American Skeptics Association. I don't remember exactly what it's called. But he's a good man. He's a skeptic. Been a skeptic of the paranormal, a skeptic of a lot of that stuff out there. But it was up until about 5 years ago when he had his own paranormal experience that he pretty much brushed it all off until he had a paranormal experience at his wedding and it involved his father and an old radio of his father's and so on. And he came out and he said, it takes a big person to say, I have stood against this from a skeptical standpoint my entire life, but now I've experienced it firsthand. And he didn't really say, I don't know what to do with that. He was just like, okay, I get it. And he fell under criticism from skeptics, which shouldn't be. A skeptic shouldn't be a denier. A skeptic should be somebody who says, you know what? I want to see some evidence of that before I believe that, before I take you at your word on that. Show me the evidence that you have. It was Michael Shermer. It was Carl Sagan. I almost said Carly Sagan. How you doing out there, Carly and Roger Rabbit? But Carl Sagan said extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And that's something Michael Shermer picked up. And so this story of Tucker Carlson's is kind of like that. The way his story goes He was asleep with his wife in bed, and his child was asleep. And um, he woke up. Uh, I don't remember if he said he had a disturbing dream or something of that nature, but he woke up and he walked outside in his boxers, and he's out there just getting some fresh air. And he realizes he's been scratched under his arms, like along the top of his rib cage. And he said there were bloody scratches, and then also a scratch on his shoulder. And he said, he says, I'm going to tell you, it wasn't me. He says, I did not scratch myself here, and I did not hear, or like this, however you might do it. He said, number one, I'd know if I did that, and I know I didn't. And he says, number two, he says, the scratch marks, the claw marks, he says, did not fit my hands. And he says, and frankly, my fingernails aren't long enough. And he chuckled. It's that nervous chuckling you do when you go, I don't know what this was, he says. And so he was a little disturbed by it. And the next morning, oh, and by the way, in this interview I saw, he said today he still has the scars today from that. And so he called an evangelical Christian friend of his the next morning, somebody either on his staff or who worked with him, and asked about this. And they said, oh, yeah, that can happen. Demons can attack you. And he didn't really understand what it was all about, why this would be so. What the hell is a demon? No pun intended. And he was Christianized, but not a Christian. He wasn't raised that way. And he said, so it really inspired me. He said I picked up my Bible and I started reading. I wanted to find out more about this, find out more about the faith, find out more about these types of beings. And it inspired him to do that. Now, I saw somebody talking about this. It was Father, Catholic priest, Father Carlos Martins, was talking about that. He's an exorcist. He has a lot of experience in demonology. Hey, Doug Stack, Grumpy Stack. Hey, I tried to tag you tonight on this post. I can't tag you anymore. Did you discontinue allowing people to tag you? I was just curious. Not a big deal. If you don't want to talk about it in public, mum's the word. But he's written a new book about exorcism and demonology. And in an interview of him, I saw they were talking about this case with Tucker Carlson. And the Reverend said that what you've got here, now mind you, folks, a lot of what I'm going to say next is very deeply Christian, very deeply Catholic. I am not a Catholic. You know that about me. I was not raised Catholic. I was in the fundamentalist conservative Baptist church, where this stuff was even kind of looked down on. It's not that it didn't exist. It was kind of looked down on. We don't really talk about that stuff. And it's only in extreme cases. Of course, we read Bible stories about Jesus casting out demons, the apostles casting out demons, how Satan and his followers, his demons attack, things like that. And so we learned all that stuff. But when you bring it up into modern day, oh, that's superstitious. So, yes, Steph, exactly. Steph said totally different topic, but you can't catch illegal invaders, but you can catch those deadly squirrels. That's right. Yeah, that was pretty sad, stupid story of government overreach and many other things wrapped up in it. We'll talk about that maybe a little later if we have time. But Father Martins said what Tucker Carlson probably experienced was demonic vexing. Now, vexing is not possession. It's not even oppression. Vexing, if it's demonic vexing, it has to do with demonics being given permission by God to attack you. Now, you might listen to that and go, what? Demons have to get permission from God to attack somebody? Well, yeah, according to Christian theology, they do. According to this demonologist, this exorcist, they do. And that God has evil on a very short leash. But that there are times when God allows the evil to do its work for a purpose, because it will lead somebody to a better stance, a better belief system, a better faith, a stronger faith, a better life. And this is what this Father Martins was getting at. He says, I believe it was a vexing and that it was allowed by God. Demons don't just run amok. You find them in a haunted house somewhere when you're doing a paranormal investigation. Now, maybe they're around, but they can't do anything to you. And as Father Martins put it, and I've heard this before in these same kinds of circles, Adam Bly within a Roman Catholic demonology circles that he frequents or that he's part of, is that a demon can't just attack you. And frankly, it's not the devil attacking you if you go under demonic attack. Demonic attack being either by vexing or by possession or oppression. Demons don't do that. They can't do that on their own. They have to have the permission of the supreme power, which is God, according to theological circles. Now, I'm going to say that for the last time, because that's going to be the blanket caveat with everything I'm saying about this in a Christian sense, is that this is a Roman Catholic determination of how this of this theology, and it's also a Christian look at it. Now, I have known other religious figures. My old pastor, who I've talked about before, Parson Larson, he had been, he said he was never an exorcist or a demonologist, but that he had assisted in an exorcism once, as did the assistant pastor at our church at the time. And that they both said, it's not something I would ever do again. Never. He says, I would never want to get involved in it, and I never will. I stay as far away from that as I can. The assistant pastor was telling me, he said it was humiliating, only in the and it was frightening in the sense that the woman who was possessed, in a different voice, started calling out his private sins that nobody else knew about. And the exorcist assured him, we don't care. This is what happens. Steel yourself for this. There's more coming. And he said it was the most frightening thing he'd ever been involved with. Then there was my former pastor who said the same thing. He says there were several very strong men holding this small woman down and could barely do it, and different voices, different languages that she did not know coming out of her. And he said it was a frightening experience, and it's not something he'd ever want to do again. Now, this Father Martins said vexing, when this happens, it can take the form of, he says, you see things that you might call poltergeist activity. Like he said, I had a cup come off a table and sail across the room at me once. He says that's demonic vexing, at least in the context he was in. He says sometimes This demonic vexing, or maybe even into the oppression stage, could be when these demonic spirits can literally cause unrest in your relationships, unrest in your home. Now, this is not I'm not talking superstitious mumbo jumbo. Oh, it must be a demon or a small troll living in your stomach, according to Theodoric of York. Steve Martin, the old Saturday Night Lives. And where everything is superstition and everything could be attributed to demonic activity. That's not what we're talking about here. But there are things that do fall under the description and the definition of demonic activity. And many times you will find it's these families that have angers that they've never had before toward each other, toward their children, back at them. A dark atmosphere falls over their family. It can take that kind of form. It can also take the physical form, like I mentioned, of the cup being thrown, or the physical form of physical attack, like Tucker Carlson claims. He said he was scratched under both his arms up on top of his rib cage. Now, he put his arms like this. He says, I wasn't scratching myself. And he says, besides, it didn't match. It didn't match up. He said, it wasn't my dog, which can crawl into the bed, my big dog. He said, and I was scratched on the shoulder as well. And he said, I could maybe reach that and do that in my sleep. Now, folks, I'll tell you something. I have scratched myself in my sleep many times, but never claw marks across my chest or up my sides. I've got something on the back of my neck right now, just a little tiny scab from in my sleep. I scratched something there and I got a little scab, a little tiny mark. Sometimes I have done it right here. I'll scratch right here at night and my fingernail will catch the skin and I'll have a little bloody spot there in the morning. I thought, well, when did I do that? That's the most I've ever done, by scratching myself in my sleep. And so this priest believes that Tucker is telling the truth. He listened to everything Tucker said, the things he said about it. And he said, I believe him. And he says, I believe that these are things that can happen to you. The vexing of evil. Now, he also said, and this was maybe a bit inspiring to me, somebody who walked away from my faith a long time ago, despite having been through Bible school and seminary and in ministry and all of those things. I walked away 30 years ago. I didn't throw out the baby with the bathwater, as I've always attested. I mean, I just walked away and said, I can't do this. I don't know if I believe half of what I'm being told. And I wanted to know things. And so this particular vexing, this priest said, Father Carlos Martins, you can look him up, Carlos Martins. He's got a new book out on demonology and exorcism. And very humble about it, by the way. That his take is this: God will allow evil to attack you for the purpose of refining you, of, in a sense, putting the colors is the wrong word, showing the true colors of your faith is what I was going to say. Putting the rubber of the tire to the road, so to speak, to see what you're made of. And the vexing usually is not something that is overtly severe, but it is something that God allows for a purpose. Now, you think of the story of Job in the Old Testament, where God took everything Job had. And I heard a great comedian. He says, God took everything he had, he says, except his wife. Who nagged him about it? But what lesson did God want to teach Job? Was it to refine him, to make him better? We never hear much commentary on the loss of his 10 sons and daughters, the loss of all his property, the loss of his grandchildren, the loss of his crops and his livelihood, everything gone. But God restores that all to him tenfold, it says, or something like that. I don't know. He didn't have 100 kids, so I don't know what the fold was. But God gave him back even more. But it took probably 20, 30 years to get back to that place. And you look at that and you go, why was God toying with a human being like that? Why did he allow dark forces to toy with human beings? That's the question that's still left unanswered for me. But this is what this Father Martin said. And he believes that what happened with Tucker Carlson was vexing. Now, sometimes I think these things happen to us and they come along for the purpose of refining who we are, putting us to the test. Maybe it is, we had an old saying in the church. And that saying was, if you're not getting trouble from the devil, he's probably got you right where he wants you. And somebody was just knocking on my door, probably one of my kids. But I just heard 3 big, hello? I'm on radio, yep. It's my little girl. You can come in and say hi if you want. Yes, Father Carlos, Kalina. Hey, Rick, Born Flippy, good old friend of mine. I was just thinking of you today while I was working on some. I don't know why. You know why you crossed my mind? Because I was going through tarot cards and I came across the Magician. And I know I've mentioned this to you before. I remember the first reading I ever did for you about, 15, 16 years ago. We drew the Magician card for you. And it just stuck in my mind for some reason. Here's Ellery. How you doing, Ellie?
Good.
Good. What you got to say?
Today was the last practice until our first cheer competition.
Cheer competition.
It's on Saturday.
Coming up on Saturday. 5, 6 glorious hours of sitting in a gymnasium with 40 other schools.
9.
To watch everybody do their cheer routines, and you sit around and wait for the 7 minutes when your own kid appears. Nothing like it. So anyway, good night. I'm going to let you go because I need you to go. I'm in the middle of a show. Bye. I love you. So long. I love you. Won't you go to bed now?
14 hours out of school.
There you go. Bye. See ya. All right. So, where were we? Yeah, she got a great smile, Gina. So, let me look at some of your comments here. I haven't looked at many comments. And there's Rick. I remember it well, my friend. That reading and time spent talking to you really helped me at the time. I was, when you crossed my mind today, I wanted to ask you, and I don't mean this to be an insensitive question or not, a question toward you, but I cannot remember if that friend of yours survived his cancer or if he passed away. And the reason I bring that up is you had mentioned that he might take one of my songs, lyrics, and compose it. And that was 15 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, something like that. So I don't mean to be insensitive with that. I don't know if he's still with us or not. That question came across my mind. It's not a going concern. I'm not looking for a hot answer on that. It just was a curious thought that came across my mind. So I thought Halloween was over, says Elderberry. Oh, this goes on all year round. Halloween's just one day. This kind of stuff happens all the time. So Tucker Carlson, is he somebody who perhaps has suffered? The last thing I said before my daughter came in is that if you're not having trouble with the devil, it sounds so cliche to say that, doesn't it? We've storybooked it away out of our current conscious minds. But if you're not having trouble with the devil, perhaps he has you right where he wants you. And I was told from the time I was a young kid, my mentor told me the only time you're going to be attacked by Satan or the devil is if you're doing the right thing. I had a meme that I saw, and I posted this. Did my son put this up, or did my son comment on it? I can't remember whose meme this was, but it's over on my Facebook page, and it's got an image on it that if you are a Lord of the Rings fan and enjoyed the movies, if you remember the scene at the end of the Fellowship of the Ring where Boromir, really the rightful prince under his father, the Steward of Gondor, to Gondor. I'm talking all Tolkien now. And he is killed defending the hobbits. And he's shot with several arrows, if you remember that scene. And he had, from the orcs, these massive arrows shot into him. And this meme, I'm putting it up so you can see it, says this. It shows this image that is reminiscent of that scene in the movie, right here. And I'm going to take down my own banner because it just gets in the way sometimes. C.S. Lewis said, "My prayer is that when I die, all of hell rejoices that I'm out of the fight." And that's the imagery they used. Boromir was shot with those arrows and defending, and he dies as a result, obviously. So there is a question to ask yourself, what C.S. Lewis said here, and apply it to Tucker Carlson, apply it to your own life. My prayer is that when I die, all of hell rejoices because I'm out of the fight. Is that what you can say of yourself? Is that what you believe about yourself? What if Tucker Carlson is doing good? He's not a perfect person. None of us are. You may like him. You may not like him. But what if the demonic attack was something that was meant to show him you're not perfect? You got things to perfect. You need to look into your faith more. You need to do that. Was that God's way of saying to him, I want you to think about these things. I've loosened the leash for a moment. It's interesting. And the demonic world, does that really exist? I think there is so much, especially when you look into the whole paranormal aspect of things and how commonplace a lot of this talk has become, that we have taken some of the things that are real and we've relegated them to the realm of fantasy and storybooks. Ask yourself what you believe about this stuff. Is it real? Is it a fantasy? Is it a storybook? Does darkness really exist on a level of the demonic versus the angelic or the heavenly, and so on and so on? You know, I just noticed my my mic is it's either unplugged. Hold on, I got to check this. There's my sidewall. It looks like it's plugged in. I think it's plugged in. It's maybe plugged in, but it's not showing up on my my microphone list. So probably what you're hearing in my voice is rather tinny. Hold on a second. I know it's a little late in the game in the show here, but let me just take a look and make sure I'm plugged in. I think this is it. Yeah, that's it. All right, guys, hang on while I do this, while I unplug something and plug something else in. That goes to that. All right. Hang on. Boom. All right. See, all my lights are working on my soundboard. It just wasn't plugged into the computer. So let's see. You're going to notice a difference now in my sound. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. Sorry for the weak sound. You think I'm perfect? Thank you, Gina. I appreciate that. So there is my appropriate mic. Oh, he passed on. Oh, just this Halloween morning, Rick? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, brother. So, what do you all think of that? Rick, I know that you, it's funny that you're here tonight because you had written an article for Intrepid magazine years ago about some kind of evil presence that you had encountered. And I don't know if you chalked it all up psychologically. I don't remember. I have to look at that again and refresh my mind with that story. But is Tucker Carlson somebody who you believe may have fallen under attack by something spiritual? Because something would like to take him out. But God is saying, I've only released the leash this far. God has a weird sense of humor, says Rapid Dog. Yeah, I agree with you. It's sometimes, where do you think the writers in Star Trek came up with Q? Kind of that aspect of a divinity that can do whatever they want with unchecked power. Gina, a friend of my buddy Rick, passed away. Born Flippy, you'll see him in the chat room. It's somebody he had mentioned to me before that, and he just passed away. So, yeah, Quincy Jones passed away too. No, it wasn't Quincy Jones. I don't think, Rick. So yeah, and you're right. Tucker Carlson wouldn't be the first person who would be attacked by the demonic, because either darkness wanted him taken out, or he's doing the right thing, or God is just putting him to the test. Rick says, yeah, this article he wrote, his thing, he says, I really think it was equally psychological and spiritual. Remember, I had that same dark dream every day for months. Yeah, I remember that part of the story, although I don't remember the intimate details of the story. So, folks, this has been Tucker Carlson's account. You can go
online. There is an organization, I think it's called Christianities, IES at the end, that did a documentary with him about this, or an interview in a documentary on this demonic spirit. I have never seen Tucker Carlson as somebody to be light about these kinds of things that he talks about, nor have I ever seen him to be a liar. Although people who call him a liar usually do so because they just don't like what he has to say. But there's that. Gina, I will say it's not so much my loss because I didn't know Rick's friend. It was just a friend of Rick's that had passed. And Rick's a longtime friend of mine. So I never knew his buddy who passed away. So, but thank you. So I remember, do you remember who John Zaffis is? He was the nephew of Ed and Lorraine Warren. And he's got the haunted museum in Connecticut in a little barn in his backyard. He even had a television show, paranormal show called The Haunted Collector. I got to know John, I think back in 2007, I believe was the first year we met at the Stanley Hotel. I was doing an event, and that's where I met everybody. I met John Zaffis. I met, of course, Jason and Grant. I met Rosemary Ellen Guiley at that event, Chris Fleming at that event. And these were all people who became kind of peripheral friends of mine throughout the years. And some of them have passed. Chris Fleming, I heard, I don't even know what it is. There's something very wrong with him right now. He's ill. I have no idea what it is. There were other people as well. April Slaughter was somebody I met through all this. And that's where some of my initial connections in the paranormal came, was through these people. And so I asked John Zaffis, who is a demonologist, do you think that demons, the demonic realm, is powerful enough to be behind leaders in this world? And he said, absolutely, he said. I believe that there are demonic powers at play in places around this world now. In a way, if you kind of look at things like our fantasy stories, like The Lord of the Rings, where they had the good and the evil powers that worked for them, this is kind of what that is. And again, we poo-poo it and we dismiss it because it doesn't fit into our view of what life should be in the 21st century. We're so sophisticated now that, demons? Oh, pshaw. Yet they were here for thousands of years prior to the 20th century. So, yeah, April Slaughter. I talked to her not long ago. She is having, I know she publicizes a bit, some difficulties with her ex-husband's family. And you'll have to go look her up again and get the details. I sat on the phone with her for quite a while, a month or so ago, and we caught up, and she told me all about this thing. So she's doing well other than that, though. She's really in a battle with people. So Kalina says, I think that is biting us in the backside, forgetting about the lore. I think you're right. Rapid Dog says, Carl Jung liked the demons. I don't know if he liked the demons. He certainly understood where they came from. And he understood something about them. I always liked his take on the tarot. So, but there are some questions to ask. I'm going to open this up for your calls. We're going to go out for just a wee break. You can take that however way you want to. And we'll be back in just a minute or so. So prepare yourself for the captain's cabin. And I am going to put right now an invite if you want to call into the captain's cabin. I'm going to put it up in the chat room. Boom. There it is. If you're over on Instagram, you're not going to see that. So I'm going to take this and also paste it over here into the Instagram chat. So if you wanted to call into the show, it's going to ask for your webcam. You don't have to show up on cam if you don't want to, but you can. Everybody else does. At least audio, but this will get you into the backstage, so to speak, off the wings. I'll see you when you call in, and then just hang there until I get you in here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to cut out for a minute or two, and we'll be back with the captain's cabin. So everybody, sit tight. Don't go anywhere. We're just going to end this portion of the show. If you got to go, live long and prosper.
The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hi, I'm my dad. So he can take me to Disneyland.
Dave, I love you, brother.
I miss you too.
I miss you too, I heard.
Yep.
Did you guys hear that?
I heard that.
I miss you, Dave.
Hold on. Hey, guys, we're back. Welcome back to the Captain's Cabin. I appreciate you being here. I got Rick Church on the phone here. How you doing, Rick? Fantastic. All right. Well, I'm going to carry on with the Captain's Cabin. Are you still, if you're still over in the chat room, we'll chat a bit there. Maybe we can talk when the show's over. Sounds good, brother. All right. See you in a bit. All right, guys. I took that because it was Rick, Born Flippy, who's over there in the chat room. He said, Peanut Forever. Are you all familiar with who Peanut is? It's P''nut was his name, and what that's all about and what happened there. I don't know all the ins and outs of the story well enough to tell it, other than a guy who had 350 acres. He rescued horses and other animals. He rescued this squirrel that was, and brought him into his home 7 years ago, I think it was. And this squirrel has lived in his home ever since. And he also, in recent months, 7 or 8 months ago, rescued a raccoon. And that raccoon was living in his house. Now, he was raided very recently. And somebody had called and turned him in for having wild animals in his house. Now, he had rescue horses. I'm assuming rescue dogs and other, because he had other animals. But he had 2 animals in his house that were not allowed by the conservationist laws in New York State. And he had 10 federal officers or 10 state officers show up at his house, raided his house, and treated him like a terrorist, he said. They took away Peanut, the squirrel, basically his pet squirrel that he'd been raising for 7 years, and Fred, the raccoon, who he rescued 7 or 8 months ago, and they euthanized them. So here's this man who has put all this energy into these. Yeah, poor squirrel got done real dirty. That's the truth, Flippy. And it's a sad tale. But there's more to it than that. There's something about this story that doesn't ring true. And that would be the government's motivation. And if I were to look this up, just to try to get a little more info on what's going on here. I had put up, by the way, I put up his picture on Sunday when we were talking about this. If I show you, this is, I think I've still got it in here somewhere. Here it is. There is Peanut the squirrel and his owner. And you can see it was a pretty nice situation there, just by that picture alone. Born Flippy says thousands of missing kids, crime rampant everywhere. The the country on edge, and they took out poor Peanut with 10 agents. Come on, ridiculous, says Rick. I agree with you, brother. And that's, of course, they're all different things, and we realize that. We make statements like that, and we know that there's so much more to it, but there is a truth there. There is so much going on, and it took 50 man-hours, 10 police officers and government officials, 5 hours. And he was kept outside of his home, detained, while they ransacked his house. So 50 man-hours to confiscate a squirrel and a raccoon, who were both domesticated. So it's interesting to me. I don't know what the motivation was, but here is the this is an article in The Hill, which is a political rag that's out there. And their headline is almost telling. Their headline says this: how Peanut, a euthanized squirrel, entered the political fray. And Peanut, who was an Instagram famous squirrel that was seized and euthanized by New York State, has entered the political fray, with Republicans saying its killing is representative of democratic overreach. Democratic as in the party overreach. Our government will let in 16,000 rapists. They will let in 13,000 murderers. They will, by these are ICE statistics. They will let in 6 million, it looks like million by the number of zeros, 6 million criminals across our border. But if someone is a pet squirrel without a permit, they'll go in there and kill the squirrel, Donald Trump Jr. said at the rally over the weekend. That is the Democratic Party. That's where they will go. That's their overreach. And Republican Vice President nominee J.D. Vance also told the crowd at the same rally that former President Trump was fired up about the death of the squirrel. He was like, is it really the case that Democrats murdered the Elon Musk of squirrels? Vance said. New York carried out a raid at Mark Longo's home, which is near the border with Pennsylvania, after numerous complaints about the squirrel, according to the Associated Press. Longo had rescued the squirrel 7 years ago. The state euthanized the squirrel and raccoon to test them for rabies after reports that they'd bitten someone. Longo questioned the decision, saying that Peanut had not bit anyone. And he said, honestly, this still kind of feels surreal that the state that I live in actually targeted me and took two of the most beloved animals on this planet away, didn't even quarantine them. Longo told AP, they took them from my house and just killed them. And New York's Department of Environmental Conservation, the DEC, was contacted for comment, but they have not responded as far as we know. Longo stated that he started a GoFundMe to memorialize Peanut and Fred, the raccoon who was also euthanized. The funds will be donated to Peanut's Freedom Farm, which tirelessly rescues and provides care for vulnerable animals. That would be Tom's place. So, or Longo's place that he owns. Their lives were a testament to the importance of compassion and kindness toward all creatures, and we are committed to honoring them by continuing this vital work, Longo wrote. And support will empower us to demand accountability from the DEC and advocate for a more compassionate approach to wildlife management. Elon Musk and Laura Loomer, both Trump supporters, have also criticized the New York government for killing the animal. The government should not be allowed to barge into your house and kill your pet. That's messed up, Musk wrote on the social platform X. Even if it is illegal to have a pet squirrel, which it shouldn't be, why kill Peanut instead of simply releasing him into the forest? Bill Ackman, the CEO of Pershing Square, who gained fame in the aftermath of protests on elite college campuses tied to the Israel-Gaza conflict, also weighed in on the killing, saying that next they'll take your children. I don't know if that's a stretch or not, but Musk also equated a vote for Trump with a vote for Peanut. And his post has been viewed more than 35 million times. Now, some of that, of course, is tongue-in-cheek, but I think they mean it. Because there is something behind this. When your government can come into your house like that and take your pet. It wasn't like it was an exotic tiger, a man-eating tiger that could get free and roam around and eat children. It was a fucking squirrel and a raccoon. And he said they didn't even quarantine them to see if they had rabies. They killed them. And he said, if they'd had rabies, do you think I would have known it by now? So there's that story of Peanut and Fred. So Grumpy Stack says, my squirrel bites my wife every time. Grumpy, I don't care what you call it. Your private little pet names for him. So, yeah, reportedly said by Fred to Squirrel Daddy during the raid. I missed something. Peanuts gone mad, says JP. I'll be outside. Good luck. A quote overheard during the Battle of El-Mogadishu. Okay, that's a joke I don't understand, but I know what you're doing. I know what you're saying. I just don't understand where you're making up the words from. But I get it. It's cool. It's fine. I don't have to understand it. It's witty. There we go. So there it is. What do you guys think of that story? Now, is that of great importance to the election? No. What it does represent, though, is government overreach. Now, this is state government. Kathy Hochul is the governor of New York. And she just did something else really stupid the other day, and I can't think of what it was. My brain's getting tired, if you can't tell. I'm wearing down. So it's those 4 o'clock mornings that I wake up and I go up and I'm going to make coffee. I'll get my coffee started at 4 since I'm wide awake, and I'll go back and lay down until my alarm goes off to get my kids up. And of course, that didn't happen. I didn't sleep anymore. But I did have good coffee. So. JP says, to Gordon and Shugart's last stand protecting Mike Durant during the Battle of Mogadishu. Elmira is where this all went down. So Elmira Dishu. Got it. Okay. It's no longer zooming over my head. Now makes sense. Rick says, I think it sucks. It's rather Orwellian of his neighbors in the state. Oh, you know what I heard today, by the way? They have identified who the woman is, a neighbor of his, of Longo's, that turned him in. I always that phrase, turned him in. Turn in your neighbors. I know Tim Walz requested Minnesotans to do that. Tim Walz is the governor of Minnesota during COVID. Turn in your neighbors if they're having a party when we have a lockdown. He encouraged that. Now you've got turning in. When you can turn in somebody, here's the thing about the way our Constitution is written and our laws of jurisprudence, is that if you have to appear in court for something, you have a right to face your accuser. So what sometimes happens, though, is the neighbor who turns you in isn't necessarily the accuser. The state takes that on, or the county, and they become your accuser. Somebody just turned you in. So it has been learned who this neighbor is that caused all of this, and why she felt it was her business to get the government involved, because her neighbor on a 350-acre farm had a squirrel and a raccoon in his house. I wonder if there's other problems there. She doesn't like his land. Maybe he doesn't keep it well. The look of the interior of his house looked really nice, though, when you saw all these pictures. And he does videos all the time. He looks like they are very well kept in their house. So what her motivation for turning them into the government was, I don't know. But she did. And now they found out who did it. And I don't remember what I heard is being done about that, but let's see. I'm going to put Longo's. No, that's not the way to put that. Who turned in Peanut and Fred? Here it is. USA Today has this article on it. Who ratted out Peanut the squirrel? The grieving owners have their theory, and it's a rich one. All right, here's the theory. Now, this was yesterday. This story was written in Pine City, New York. Peanut the squirrel was ratted out by someone, and his upstate owners think it was over jealousy. Mark and Daniela Longo told the Post on Sunday that they'd been cashing in on their furry internet sensation, who helped steer followers to their raunchy OnlyFans page. They have a raunchy OnlyFans page. Before he was seized from their animal sanctuary and euthanized by the state environmental officials over rabies fears last week. The couple's financial success, fueled at least partly by Peanut, may have been enough to drive someone to drop a dime on them and their fluffy-tailed cash cow, they said. Now, Peanut the squirrel, there's a bunch of stories on the Post. Peanut the squirrel, beloved pet and internet sensation, euthanized after being seized by New York State. Peanut the squirrel's grieving family gives tearful statement on TikTok. I'm sad and disgusted, said Longo. Peanut the squirrel's grieving owner says he was treated like a terrorist in 5-hour raid by the New York State. Fans of Peanut the squirrel raise over $158,000 after the beloved pet was euthanized by New York State. Justice for Peanut. He raised $158,000 after he was put down. Anti-Trump website falls for fake statement about the Peanut the squirrel's death. I don't know what that one is. Who ratted out Peanut the squirrel? And the grieving owners have their theory, and it would be this woman. Now, did this do wonders to my OnlyFans page? Mark said of the site, where Peanut frolicked along with other animals? Absolutely. It's making a lot of money from this. The Longos said that they bought their $350 spread near Elmira with the $800,000 that they made in 1 month posting their porn online. Wait a minute. $800,000 a month for posting their private porn? I am in the wrong business. I got to talk to Rainey about this. $800,000 in a month? That's more than I made in the last few years put together. In a month. Makes you go, doesn't it? Maybe porn isn't so bad. So did this did wonders to their OnlyFans page? They made a lot of money, $800,000 in 1 month, posting their porn. Peanut then began pulling his own weight with his separate family-friendly fan base. I had my own kind of squirrel dad account, my own Instagram, Mark Longo said, and it's me doing my workouts, and a lot of the time, I don't have time to make content like I used to. I just tag my squirrel dad account from Peanut, the video I posted, so it gets double the clip views. Every once in a while, a shirtless photo on Peanut's page too, but I completely separated myself from this entire thing. Obviously, people are going to find both and try to associate them. The Longos made headlines after the State Department of Environmental Conservation raided their upstate spread, Peanut's Freedom Farm, and grabbed their lovable furry pet and his pal, a raccoon named Fred, with both critters euthanized over rabies concerns because they were in close contact with humans. So, seen by many as victims of an overreaching state government, the couple have become local heroes. And if you go to the New York Post and look up this article, you'll see Longo. You'll see more pictures of the cute squirrel. You'll see the little raccoon with his wife. This morning at the supermarket, I wanted to get a few extra copies of the Post to keep for myself, Longo said, referring to Sunday's paper with front page headline, Bushy Whacked. When I walked in, people recognized my face because it was on the cover of the newspaper, and they just kind of smiled and nodded. Last night, my wife and I went out to dinner. We were having dinner, and the couple next to us looked over and said, "We're so sorry for what happened, and we want you to know that you have our full support." Everybody was just noticing, and then they would tell us that, they were sorry about what happened with Peanut. The squirrel's death sparked so much outrage that it prompted a state lawmaker to propose legislation to improve animal rights statutes, calling the bill Peanut's Law, Humane Animal Protection Act. What happened to Paul was a tragedy, State Assemblyman Jake Blumenkrantz said on X. As a state lawmaker and an animal rights advocate, this tragedy can be an agent of change. So the measure would mandate a 72-hour waiting period before an animal from a sanctuary can be put to sleep, and creates an appeal system while giving animal refuge sites the right to humane due process. Peanut's death has sparked backlash from other polls, too. Spokesman for former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who is reportedly eyeing a run for the New York City mayor, trolled Governor Kathy Hochul on X over her administration's handling of Peanut. When no one is minding the store and state agencies are allowed to act with impunity, this is how stuff like this happens, wrote the representative, Rich Azzopardi. And the situation should have come across someone's desk in Kathy Hochul's office, and someone with a brain should have stepped in. Upstate U.S. Representative Mark Molinaro, Republican in New York, wrote online, "As a pet owner, I feel for the Longos, and I'm calling for Governor Kathy Hochul to issue an official apology for their ridiculous overreach. A GoFundMe.com page for Peanut has raised more than $132,000. Now, neither Hochul's office nor the DEC responded to requests for comment from the New York Post. So there you go, folks. That's the ongoing saga of Peanut and Fred. Wow. The best post tonight. Professor Bauer says Peanut is not dead. It's a psyop. Wonderfully said. Rick says people pushing the hate in all sorts of creative ways these days. Watch your six, my friends. I agree with you there, Rick. So, folks, what are you going to do tomorrow? I recapped the little reading that we did with Professor Bauer on Sunday, the tarot reading. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow? What do you think is going to be the outcome of the last year of campaign follies? JP said he voted today. Rainey and I went and voted on Thursday. The one day it has snowed was Thursday. We had 82 degrees, and 2 days later we had snow. So we braved the harsh winds and the cold snow and went out and voted. Roger Rabbit says, Peanut and Fred are the long-awaited surprise. The animals are going to revolt and shut down polling centers. Maybe so. Rick voted today as well. Who here has early voted? Let me know. And some people don't want people to know. They go, oh, it's a private thing, voting. I think that generation is an older generation. I think most people don't care so much anymore, unless they have something to hide. No indictment there, just saying. And so we got our voting done, and it'll be interesting. There's been quite a large turnout for early voting. So Kalina says she voted Saturday. The ballot was strange, even though he withdrew from the race. Kennedy was on our ballot too. Some states wouldn't let him withdraw. They wanted that. Part of that, I think, is it's a way to create a viable third party that people would still vote for him anyway, even though he withdrew. It's a conspiracy. So JP says, I ain't telling anyone crap about who I voted for. It qualifies as none ya, as in none ya business. Yeah, you don't have to. I tell people all the time, I voted for Trump. So did my wife. I have no bones saying this is who I voted for. I don't give a crap what anybody thinks. Go give a crap about your own shit. Here's my take on that. So, because I don't care. I don't care that people know who I voted for. I really don't. You want to wreak violence on me or disown me or, dox me somehow because of who I voted for? Hey, you know what? You're creating a problem. Born Flippy says, Trump wins by a landslide. We are all sick of this shit. I hope you are right, Rick. I really do. I want to see Trump win by a landslide. And people go, well, there's been so much early voting, they can't even do a landslide. I think they can. There's been more people turn out for a landslide, but what's going to happen tomorrow with the people that like to vote traditionally on voting day? The people who normally do that, or traditional day of voters, tend to be on the conservative side of things. JP says, has nothing to do with caring about somebody's opinion on my choice or know who I voted for. No matter who I vote for, it's none of their business. Yeah, I get that. I wasn't indicting you in any way on that. That's my stance. Is I don't care. I don't care if you want to know who I vote for, and I don't care if I'll tell you if I won't tell you or I won't tell you. So it's one of those things. Everybody knows my stance on things anyway, so I think nobody would even have to ask me if you listen to this show at all. NB says, Gina says, I voted last Monday, not this one last Monday, with the soon to be mayor of Las Vegas. I voted last Monday, not this one last Monday, with the soon to be mayor of Las Vegas. Cool. So Las Vegas, Nevada is another one of those states that's up in a question mark right now. So they are basically saying that if Trump doesn't win Pennsylvania, he doesn't have a clear path to getting the electoral votes he needs unless it's a landslide. So it's interesting. Mirror Majors, Goddess Justice. I'm voting tomorrow and taking my newly minted 21-year-old. Your newly minted 21-year-old. Their first time voting, I take it. So, yeah, you never would have guessed, huh, Kalina? Who I'm voting for? Who I voted for? So, I'm not one of those guys that's going to come out and say, it doesn't really matter who you vote for, so long as you uphold your right, your constitutional right to vote. Go out and do it. But I'm someone who says, and I don't mean anybody personal offense by this, it's general political ideology on my part. But I really don't understand how people can choose Kamala Harris. I don't care who's running against her. I don't think she's a good choice. Now, is that because that's just my opinion? Or do I have a whole list of reasons that I think are reasoned reasons why she should never be voted into office? Beginning with the fact that the thing that's become so cliche because it's been said so much is that she never won a single vote to become the candidate. She was appointed when the power players in the Democratic Party pushed the candidate out. Now, we all wanted Joe Biden gone, but we knew Trump was going to trounce him. Is Kamala a stronger candidate than Biden was? No. As a matter of fact, if you remember right, just a little over 3 months ago, 4 months ago, was it, when Kamala entered the race? Nobody wanted her. Nobody wanted to see her step up. They were hoping Joe Biden survived till the end of his term so she wouldn't get put into office. Kamala was undergoing very bad press. Oh, until they pushed him out and said, let's bring her in. And they had to bring her in. Why? Because she was a person of color and a woman. If they had not brought her in, there would have been hue and cry, and they'd have been called hypocrites. So it's not that I don't believe a woman of color can't be president. I think this woman shouldn't be president. You look at Tulsi Gabbard, be a phenomenal president, even when she was still a Democrat. So I'd have voted for her in a heartbeat. Yeah, they knew Hillary would lose. Also, everybody's tired of Hillary, Carolina. Hillary is gone. So gone that nobody wants Hillary for president, except maybe a handful of idiots. God, was that too harsh? So I hope you go out and vote tomorrow. I hope you go vote for the right person. I won't tell you who to vote for, but I will tell you who would be the stupider choice. And you know what? All the crap, you got to look at all the crap that Trump has been put through and that he has emerged from. They impeached him twice. It was vacated twice. Do you know the first time they started impeachment proceedings on Trump was the second day he was in office? If he wins tomorrow, there will be impeachment papers on the desk the morning he sits in the Oval Office. You know it. And let's see, what else? So then there was the whole Russia hoax thing, with where we wasted how many years and millions of dollars with Mueller as the special counsel. Then we come to find out anyway that it was a fake dossier that started the whole thing, funded by the Hillary Clinton campaign. Did she get in trouble? Nope. Nope. Posted. Then what happened next? I know there was somewhere along the way, there was all these other things that happened, but there was, then the lawfare came, and then they started trying to take away Donald Trump's ability to ever become the president again. There were accusations, a dime a dozen. Folks, I don't care if you were once a billionaire playboy with your own OnlyFans page. It doesn't matter. Everybody's got a past. So, and I'm not going to say more about that. I'll just get too bogged down on the details of idealizing. So, stop saying what? JP? Stop saying that, Scotty. You'll end up Clinton. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes. Yeah. If I was more important, maybe. Not important enough to be suicided. So, President Trump there's been 2 assassination attempts. One where he nearly got his head blown off. It just took off, just nicked his ear as it grazed him. Like he says, imagine if I had turned this way instead of this way. So it would have taken out his whole head. There was a second attempt where they caught the guy before he did anything. So you start adding all these things up and you say, is this because Trump is just a mean guy, a terrible man? I know a lot more terrible men, or of a lot more terrible men, than Donald Trump. And if you notice how they have attempted to demonize him, you have to dehumanize someone and then demonize them. And how all of us are garbage because we support him. And that all came because a comedian told a joke about, if you didn't know it, the huge trash problem that is a huge problem in Puerto Rico right now that they're trying to get fixed and resolved. The whole Hitler thing. The whole comparing Donald Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden to a Hitler rally that took place in 1939 at Madison Square Garden. Neo-Nazis, American Nazis. Not neo, American Nazis. There were 3 other presidents who had rallies in that hall. I think it was FDR, Lyndon Baines Johnson, and I can't remember who the third one was. Oh, Truman. Those 3 all had, they were all Democrats. And they all had rallies after the Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden. Why is Trump's the only one compared to? How can you possibly want to vote for a person whose campaign endorses this kind of activity? They can't just tell the truth. They can't just work on their own merit. They have to try to make the public believe something heinous about the other person. People go, well, Trump does the same thing. No, he calls Liz Cheney dumb and stupid. He calls Kamala Harris low IQ. I've never seen him try to compare her to Lucretia Borgia or someone like that out of history. Never done it. Kalina says it's because he did the impossible. He won an election without poli-sci experience. Yeah, there it is. And I got to tell you, I am not moved by Kamala's, which I saw a couple of minutes of her speech last night, her impassioned speech about America and we're this and we're Americans and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And we strive for unity and you will always see that from me. And I'm like, let's just backtrack 4 days to when you were calling your opponent Hitler. Tell me that's not hatred. So, again, I implore you, go vote your conscience. Go vote what you believe. But at the same time, you'd better look at who you're voting for and say, is this the right choice to make? I saw somebody in a social media thread. Somebody said, yeah, well, what's Trump ever? This was just today, and I copied it because I posted this list myself. Well, what did Trump ever accomplish that was any good in his presidency? This person listed at least 40 to 80 things. I got a big, long list. And somebody came back and actually said, yeah, but what did he do for LGBT rights? He's a monster. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? After reading that list, that's all you got? Oh, I got to tell you, some people are one issue types. I'm looking to see where I pasted this. Hold on. Just want you to get an idea. It's not that. Not that. It's not that. Where the hell did it go? It's a big, long thing. I don't know what I did with it. It disappeared. Anyway, a big, long list. Yeah, she had a speech last night, JP. Her kind of closing argument for the election. So, and it was dumb. It was as dumb as anything I've ever seen her say. And you know why I say that it was dumb? Because do you know that there are some people that you just say, I can't listen to much she says because I know too much about what she is not. So, listen with good ears, folks. Cast a good vote. If you haven't voted yet. And that's all I've got to say about that. All right. Guess what? I'm about all Dean Oot, as they say in Scotland. My eyes are having trouble staying open. It's been a long day. I've got another long day tomorrow. So I'm going to get out of here. So I want to thank you all for being here, giving me your time, being part of this show. It means a lot to me. I'll be back on, maybe we'll make a special appearance tomorrow night if something very wild happens. I might come on tomorrow night. Otherwise, we'll save it for Wednesday. So all of you who have not voted, go out and vote. Bring people with you. Encourage people. Offer rides if you have to. And vote for the right person. And hopefully we'll see some good things happen. All right, folks. That's it. That's all I got. I'm out of here. You have a good night. See you next time. Live long and prosper.